This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
I'm gonna break up with a drone! Oh! She is very gorgeous to me!
Welcome back into The Door Report, and welcome into episode 340 on a lovely Tuesday evening, November 2nd.
Sunday evening.
Oh my God. Hold on. That's the perfect way to start this. On a lovely Sunday evening, November 2nd, 2025, I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squat Jim Duggan. I like we have more of a wide frame camera angle this time.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that, but it's doing that.
I said Tuesday because that is when me and Trevor usually record The Door Report. I'm going on a work trip all week, so we're having to adjust our schedule a bit and record this on Sunday evening. Will be released on Monday morning. People are going to be all thrown off and in a tizzy about that. It's thrown me off that I have to record tonight. It's gotten me out of my weekly rhythm. So yeah, that's why I screwed that up. But here at The Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Next up, we have the Roback ad read, Roback Activewear. There is only one way to describe Roback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Phoebe, is this intriguing you? Roback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice, short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, all capitals, no spaces, on roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Roback, ROBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20. Also, a new ad read. Shout out to the NIL store. You can find them on Twitter at NIL_store. They just released a new Diego Pavia and Eli Stower shirt. You can find them on the web at nil.store/doorreport15. Or you can just go to nil.store and you can use code doorreport15, all capital letters, no spaces, for 15% off all Vanderbilt items. So Vanderbilt fans out there, check them out. Some great designs, some great t-shirts. Be sure to check out NIL store online or on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't have any Roback gear, but I do have a couple of t-shirts from the NIL store supporting my wonderful Vandy athletes.
Yeah, I will be sure to get a more succinct and better ad read as we move forward. This is a new partnership for TDR, so happy to have them on board. So, Trevor, we are going to try our best as we are recording on Sunday night. I'm currently doing laundry and have to pack and get ready for my flight tomorrow for my actual day job that matters and pays the bills. So we're going to try to run through this and get through everything in about an hour. We will see if that comes true. We've said that before. This time we're actually going to do it. So we may not go into as much detail specifically when evaluating the Auburn game. And that does make quite a bit of sense considering the news that is broken on the Auburn coaching front. Everything you've evaluated before for Auburn is going to be a team with a different head coach. So that we can run through the stats, run through some of the players, but we will try our best to keep this episode of The Door Report succinct and on track. Trevor, Texas loss. Vanderbilt loses 34-31 to the, at the time, number 20 ranked Texas Longhorns. Vanderbilt had a miraculous fourth quarter frenzy of offense to make that game a lot closer, and ultimately it came down to an onside kick that was nearly recovered by the Commodores. Going to haunt my dreams for an extended period of time, but Vanderbilt had a tough opening to the game, going into a 17-0 hole. I know it's the intro, just had to give that caveat before I swung it to you and said, so after that, and a little bit of a quick recap before we fully dive in, what's the vibe check at? Vanderbilt sitting at 7-2.
Yeah, that game did a number on me, but I tweeted it yesterday, and I'm going to reiterate it numerous times in this podcast for the vibe check. We are down, but we are not out. Still a lot of football to play. Everything that Vanderbilt wants, everything this Vanderbilt fan base wants is still in front of them. So with that being said, I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. Still very positive. Really like the way this team is going to be able to finish out this season.
7.5 out of 10. I think if that game would have remained on the same track that it was on for the first 3 quarters or so, that might have been a little bit lower of a vibe check.
Definitely.
And we will get to that.
And if Miami hadn't lost to SMU, it would have been a lot lower.
A little bit of chaos in the college football landscape this weekend. But before we get into the Texas recap, the Auburn preview, and a very quick discussion of the upcoming basketball season, I mean very quick. We will dig more into it once games are beginning to be played. It will be very quick. Before we get into all that and much more, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR for access to premium content and our premium message board behind closed doors. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes or Spotify. It's now time for segment 1.
Every time I'm in the streets, I make the gun go.
Welcome back into episode 340 of The Door Report, and welcome into segment 1. To start off here, we have the Vanderbilt at Texas game recap. The Vanderbilt Commodores lost by a final score of 34-31. However, I will say that final score is not really indicative of how that full game played out. Crazy game, I will say. And I think a lot of this evaluation of the game, if you would ask me and Trevor about 2.5 quarters into that game, what we would be talking about, what we would be saying is a lot different than what we're going to be talking about with this Vanderbilt football team. Vanderbilt started out in a 17-0 hole, kind of like I mentioned in that intro, just a nightmare start for Vanderbilt fans and this Vanderbilt football team. First play of the game for the Texas offense. 75-yard touchdown swing pass to Ryan Wingo. 2 missed tackles by Vanderbilt players, Langston Patterson and C.J. Hurd. Just terrible angles overall in general. Vanderbilt's first drive on the 4th play of the game, Diego Pavia sacked, fumbles inside of the Texas 30. Texas capitalizes with a field goal, gets a stop on Vanderbilt. Texas goes down, scores immediately. Before you can blink, Vanderbilt was sitting in a 17-0 hole on the road against Texas. Not how you want to start. At halftime, Vanderbilt actually pulled within 14, and then Texas scored 10 unanswered points in the 3rd quarter. Vanderbilt going into that 4th quarter was down 34-10. 34-10. That needs to sink in how miraculous this 4th quarter explosion and near comeback was for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt put up 21 unanswered points in the 4th quarter, fully just put the game into Pavia's arms and said, play hero ball. And he did, and he was electric. I think I could be wrong on this. Diego Pavia's best statistical performance as a Vanderbilt Commodore.
Yeah.
Diego Pavia was 27 of 38 for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns, as well as 14 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown and 1 lost fumble. Arch Manning cooked, not going to lie. 25 of 33 for 328, 3 touchdowns. He looked like, and Arch Manning has looked like the last couple weeks, the guy that Texas fans expected him to be.
Yeah, he has.
So I just wanted to get the stats out for the quarterback, but ultimately the game came down to an onside kick that was perfectly executed by Brock Taylor in the rain. Vanderbilt had a couple opportunities to jump on the ball. Ultimately, the ball squirted out of bounds right past the fingertips of Nick Rinaldi and Langston Patterson. I really thought they had it from the camera view. I mean, there's no guarantee Vanderbilt would have drove down and been able to get the field goal or won the game. But, man, it felt like with the momentum in that building, it was Texas had already written it up as a win before that clock hit 0-0. And if Vanderbilt were to recover that onside kick, I think panic mode would have happened in that Texas sideline. I
Yeah.
think Vanderbilt would have come back and win, but ifs and buts and candy and nuts and whatever that phrase is, we'll never know because Vanderbilt did not recover the onside kick and Vanderbilt ultimately lost. The loss has bumped Vanderbilt down to number 15 in the AP poll, the last AP poll that matters, because the college football playoff rankings are going to come out, and that's what actually matters. Those come out Tuesday.
Tuesday evening.
Tuesday evening. So for 48 hours, that AP poll will matter. Then after that, doesn't matter anymore. Texas jumped up to, I believe, number 13.
They did. Yeah, got a big bump.
Big bump. I mean, Texas was impressive in the first 3 quarters of that game. Very, very impressive. And then Vanderbilt decided to play out of their minds in the fourth quarter. Would have been nice to see that earlier. Trevor, any initial thoughts before we jump quickly into our 3 key takeaways?
Yeah, I know it was a loss, but man, it was a bad game for the folks that said Diego Pavia can't throw a football. It was a bad game for people who thought, oh, in order to beat this Vanderbilt team, you're going to have to make Diego Pavia throw. With that being said, Texas did win, but it wasn't because Diego Pavia was throwing the ball. That was not the reason Vanderbilt lost. The reason Vanderbilt almost won was because Diego Pavia was throwing the ball.
Yeah. I don't want to step on any keys that we have, but I mean, Vanderbilt couldn't run the ball.
No.
And the offensive line could not protect Pavia. We'll get into some more details in that in our 3 key takeaways, but certainly Diego Pavia's arm is not what lost Vanderbilt that football game. He was on point. So Trevor, you want to go first on these 3 key takeaways here, or you want me to go first, or we can mix it up, whatever you want to do.
Since it was a loss, we'll try and switch up the juju. How about you go first?
I will go first to start here. So my only positive takeaway, however, I think it might be the most important takeaway from this game, kind of hits a little bit on what you were talking about. My key takeaway number 1 is this team kept fighting. I know that might sound cliche, and I'm going to be hypercritical of the staff and how the players came out and performed initially at the start of this game. 100% that is coming. I promise wet blanket Will is coming. But this team, 34-10 in the fourth quarter, would have been very, very, very easy to, for lack of a better term, roll over and die. And that's not what happened. This team kept fighting, made the final score extremely respectable at 34-31, and not just made the final score respectable, had an opportunity to go down and win the football game. I think that's kind of lost in all of this. It's like Vanderbilt didn't just score a complete garbage time touchdown and no opportunity. I mean, they almost got the onside kick and had an opportunity to really come back. But at the end of the day, what we often complain about with AP poll voters, college football playoff committee, is how much do they really watch the full game? Well, that final score of 34-31 is certainly going to look a lot better than 34-13.
Yeah.
To AP poll voters and to the college football playoff committee. This Vanderbilt team continued to fight, did not roll over, and in some ways, it's a big time positive. In some ways, it's frustrating. It's like, where was this the first 3 quarters of the game? Where was this fight? Where was this intensity? And you could say some of it is Texas taking their foot off the gas. I think that's a little overrated. I think once Vanderbilt maybe scored that initial Eli Stowers touchdown, there's no way that Texas team was unfocused after that. But that's my number 1 key takeaway. It would have been very easy to roll over and die and just leave Texas with an 18 or a 24-point loss or whatever it is. That's not what this team did, and kind of fully silencing the last of those that are just throwing out the same old Vandy stuff. That was not the same old Vandy. The same old Vandy gets down 17-0 in the first quarter, and it's just a bloodbath from start to finish. That's not what we saw. This team fought in the first half, cut it to 14 before half. Texas then goes up 31-10 or 34-10, and you're thinking, I mean, this is completely over. And then I just never in my wildest imagination did I think we would be discussing this coming down to an onside kick. So that's my key takeaway number 1. Plain and simple, very positive. This team kept fighting.
Yeah, my key takeaway number 1, I'm sure it's one of your key takeaways, so I apologize in advance for taking it. The offensive line stunk. The offensive line had their worst game of the season, and it wasn't close. I think Vanderbilt all season long had given up 3 sacks, 7 sacks throughout the season. My apologies. And they gave up, 6 sacks in this game. So almost tied their season total. Just no other way to put it than in pass pro and in the run game, just an absolute disaster from the offensive line. They got manhandled, they got bullied, they got pushed around, and they really had no answer. And then not just on top of that, just consistent penalties from the tackles. Bryce Henderson has got to clean up these false starts. Bryce Henderson has to clean up these procedural penalties. I get it. You're on the road. You're outside at tackle. That's a long way for information and signals to travel to you. But my man, you've been playing football for a long time. You got to get better, especially whenever we're getting into crunch time and meaningful November football. Offensive line and Bryce Henderson has to lock in and get better.
A lot of penalties,
Yeah.
and one of them early that killed a Vanderbilt drive and ended up forcing a punt. I think it was actually a hold on Jordan White. Just a lot of frustrating penalties that have really plagued this offensive line the entire season, and they just haven't really gotten that much better. Now, the offensive line against better competition, we were kind of really hyping up this offensive line the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
To be honest, they've gotten dominated.
Yeah, they've sucked.
Against Missouri, they got dominated. Against Texas, they really got dominated. Granted, these are the two best defensive fronts on Vanderbilt's schedule in back-to-back weeks, so there is some caveat to that. Freak athletes up front for Texas. I mean, I think that Texas front, I think Missouri still has the best duo of edge rushers in Damon Wilson and Zion Young. I think Texas's overall defensive front is the best in the SEC.
I would agree with that.
And that's what still has Texas at number 13 with how bad their offense was to start the year. But that Texas defensive front is legit.
Yeah, they were nasty.
I could go a lot of different directions for my second key takeaway. I'm going to flip it on the other side and say we talked about it going into this game that the Texas offensive line had struggled throughout the year. They really struggled to run the football, struggled to protect Arch Manning. The Vanderbilt defensive line just simply got no pressure on Arch Manning. He was sitting in the cleanest pockets that I've seen any quarterback sit in against this Vanderbilt defense the entire season. There was no pressure on him. Vanderbilt got 0 sacks, and more than just 0 sacks, because I think oftentimes the sack number doesn't tell the story of how the defensive line provided pressure. Like in the Missouri game, Missouri had 2 sacks as a team. But if you watch that game, Missouri got a ton of pressure on Diego Pavia, disrupted the Vanderbilt offense. The 2 sacks did not tell the story. The 0 sacks for Vanderbilt told the story of that defense. You can blame it on the secondary, blame it on whatever. Texas was able to run the football consistently, and also Arch Manning just stood in a clean pocket and just picked Vanderbilt apart. He was pretty unstoppable. So that's my key takeaway number 2. I don't know if it's like an answer thing, but you got to get pressure. You got to get pressure on the opposing quarterback with Vanderbilt's known issues in the secondary, and they were just unable to do that against Arch. They never made him uncomfortable. Excuse me. As I cough. And that's ultimately the reason. I think the main reason why Vanderbilt lost this football game. It was both sides of the line, but Vanderbilt's offensive and defensive lines both got beaten badly. So you lose the battle of the line of scrimmage, you're going to lose the game most of the time, and that's why Vanderbilt lost.
Yeah. My key takeaway number 2, I'm going to flip back over to the defense. This secondary, I mean, I really don't know what else to say at this point. They're awful in space. They can't cover in space, especially in an era in college football to where teams are going to spread you out sideline to sideline, utilize those wide hashes. They can't cover in man, in zone. They do a decent job, but in zone they're getting put on islands, and these cats can't tackle. It's one of the worst tackling performances I've ever seen, not just from a Vanderbilt football team, but from a football team in general. I said it whenever we were previewing Texas. I said Texas does a lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage. Vanderbilt is going to have to make tackles in space. Vanderbilt couldn't make tackles in space. They couldn't make tackles whenever it was close. There were 3 defenders around a Texas player. None of them could bring him down. I don't know if they're scared of contact. I think they're good in the technical sense, but I don't know if it's scared of contact. But overall, man, just this secondary in space and coverage is not good. They are terrible at tackling. They're gonna have to get better. And it's so far in the season that if we were saying this week 3, I'm like, you can get better. I'm like, yeah, you can get better. At this point to where you're playing November football, I think it is what it is. And you just got to deal with it, and you just got to just deal with the cards you're dealt. But man, the tackling, CJ Hurd, and he's had a really, really good season. I don't want to harp on him for one bad game, but he was bad. Like,
we hyped him up last week.
In all seriousness, and I love CJ Hurd. He should have been taken off the field. So
I mean, he had 4. CJ Hurd, I don't want to cut you off on your takeaway. CJ Hurd had 4 missed tackles in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, bad missed tackles, bad angles. And there are a lot of guys, not just the secondary. I'm glad you brought that up because I was deciding between 2 as my final key takeaway here, and one of them was the tackling was horrendous.
Tackling was some of the worst I've ever seen.
It wasn't just the secondary was the primary problem, but I mean, even on that first play from Ryan Wingo, Langston Patterson,
bad angle
on him, and broke a 75-yard touchdown up the sideline. It just felt not even big plays. It wasn't just 75-yard. It was on plays where it was like that should have been a Texas 3-yard gain, and it was a 6-7-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the Vanderbilt Clark-Lee defense of 2021 to 2023. And so far, I think why it was so in your face and obvious is that hasn't been an issue that much this year, especially with the performance you saw last week against Missouri. It's just this game was so different than what we have seen out of the defense this year. The secondary has had problems covering, but it felt like once and you had the issue in the LSU game with the big play, but that felt like a one-off freak play. The issues have been in coverage. It hasn't been in bringing the guy down once he catches the ball. And it felt like every ball carrier for Texas, whether it was on a catch or was on a run, they were just picking up 3 to 4 at minimum extra yards on missed tackles.
And I don't want to blame fully the secondary for those lapses, because I do agree with you. If you're a defensive back or you're a safety or you're a linebacker in coverage and you're asked to cover a guy for 3-4 seconds, I mean, that's impossible. The defensive line has to get home. It's not just the secondary's fault. The tackling, that's their fault. If there's a man in front of you, you got to bring him down. But you also have to have sympathy. Martell Height can't cover a guy for 4 seconds. Defensive line, the blitzing backers, you got to get home. It was an all-around bad performance by the defense.
So that takes me to my final takeaway. We talked about the defense. You talked about the offensive line. Now it's time to get to the coaches a little bit. My final takeaway, and maybe the most important one, Tim Beck's play calling and scheme was driving me up a wall the entire game. The announcers were even baffled by some of the things that were being called. It wasn't necessarily the mix of throw and run. It was continuously. We know Vanderbilt likes to utilize delayed handoffs. They like to utilize that in their offense. There are certain games that's just not going to work. And you could see quickly early in that Texas game, the delayed handoffs were not going to work against this Texas front. And even late into the game, Vanderbilt was still running delayed handoffs, and they were just getting smothered every time. Vanderbilt was still running that fake play action pitch that you have to have that extra time looking down the field as your quarterback. Texas wasn't biting on the fakes. They were not. At some point, you have to abandon that. Vanderbilt was still running play action late in that fourth quarter, down 10 points, running hurry-up offense.
They did it whenever they were backed up at the 1.
That extra half second or 0.25 seconds doesn't necessarily matter against non-elite defensive fronts and when they're actually biting on it. Texas was not biting on it. And that's what caused a lot of those 6 sacks. Was Texas was just crashing to Diego Pavia. They were like, you can pick up some yardage in the run game. We trust our linebackers. But our defensive line is going to be focused on getting to Diego Pavia and not letting him impact the game. And so Tim Beck's play calling, and more than just play calling, the scheme he was implementing, maybe it was seeing ghosts from what he did in that Alabama game where he completely went away from what they do. But you needed to attack this defense, this Texas defense, with quick passes to the outside, quick passes to the tight ends over the middle, and a vertical run game, and attack them vertically through the pass game. And that's not what Vanderbilt did until the fourth quarter. And you saw a lot of success in the fourth quarter.
I mean, they started abusing with the tight ends.
Yeah, so that was I think it was also Eli Stowers' best game statistically.
Eli Stowers' best game.
7 catches for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. It just, where was that? It's obviously in the playbook. They've got it. They practice it. They can run it. And it just, for whatever reason, Tim Beck did not adapt to what this Texas defense was doing, and the coaching staff in general just got beaten by Steve Sarkisian and the Texas staff. So that's my key takeaway number 3. Tim Beck's scheme and play calling drove me up a wall.
My key takeaway number 3 actually really doesn't have anything to do with the game, but it's a soapbox that I want to get on real quick. I was more upset with the takes and the reactions that I saw from Vanderbilt fans, both on Twitter and texting me and DMing me, than I was with the performance on the field. And I mean this as somebody who is chronically online. Some of you guys need to sit down at the phone. You need to put it down. I saw people saying that this was SOV. I saw people saying the season was over, that this team sucks, to blow it up. What bothered me the most was the SOV takes. That bothered me a lot. I get it. We all say irrational things after a loss. I say irrational things after a loss. I say irrational things during the game and after the game. That's part of being a fan. But like some of you guys need to get a grip. This team, even after the loss, is 7-2 with everything in front of them. And some of you guys, if you read your tweets out of context, would have thought that this was a 2-10 football team. Everything this team wants is still in front of it. We were literally saying on the pod last week, Vanderbilt can afford a mulligan. You look at college football playoff predictor models. You look at the percentages, at the chance percentage. Vanderbilt could have a mulligan and get in at 10-2. Everything this team wants is still in front of it. So what I need from the fans is I need y'all to lock the fuck in. I need y'all to chill out. And I need you to buy tickets, and I need you to get to the bank for Auburn and Kentucky. That's what I need you guys to do, because this Vanderbilt team still has something incredibly, incredibly special in front of it. And y'all need to lock in, you need to get to the bank, and you need to cheer on the boys and set down your phone.
Yeah, that's a great rant. And I'm very, very happy you went on that rant, because I am as negative and pessimistic as they come when it comes to being a Vanderbilt fan. That is how I naturally slant in life, and it goes into my sports fandom. Vanderbilt is 7-2 with their 2 losses being a road loss to Alabama by 2 scores and a road loss to Texas by 3 points. This Vanderbilt team, we talked about it last week, that in the final 4 games to still achieve a college football playoff berth, this team needed to go 3-1 in their final 4 games. And then all of a sudden the loss happens and it's like, well, the season's done. It's scrapped. That's not true. That's just not true. If Vanderbilt goes 3-0 to close out the season, the college football playoff is still there and they will still get an at-large berth. I'll put that on take right now. That's going to happen. Now, I want to extend even further, and there is the special part, I don't want to abandon the truly miraculous season that is still a possibility in front of this Vanderbilt football team of achieving a college football playoff berth. I'm setting that to the side for a second. Vanderbilt is 7-2 with Auburn, Kentucky, both at home upcoming. Vanderbilt has a more likely than not possibility of being 9-2 going into the Tennessee game at Neyland. 9 wins is the best season in the history of Vanderbilt football.
Yeah.
Can we just take a second and say, I always say I'm not moving the goalposts on things when it specifically refers to a disappointing season. That I'm like, I predicted it would be a tough season. I'm not moving the goalposts either direction, whatever you want to say. Don't move the goalposts now. This team had an over-under of 4.5 wins. Don't move the goalposts and say a 9-win season is going to be disappointing. Yes, is there going to be a disappointed aspect to the fan base that you were that close? Absolutely. But let's not pretend that just because they lost to Texas on the road that this season is now just a disappointing disaster. That's just not true.
Yeah.
That's just not true. And I can't believe I'm going on the rant about you guys got to chill out, like you said. Take a second, take a breath, put the phone down. There is football to be played, and this season, everything is still in front of you. Everything.
Yeah.
And if you would have told Vanderbilt fans you're going to be sitting at 7-2 with 3 games left on the schedule in November, every single Vanderbilt fan would have taken that before the season began. So take a second, Vanderbilt fans. I know the loss hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
But take a second, take a breath. Everything is not lost. It's time to learn what you can from this tape, burn it, move forward.
Yeah. And like I said, we're all upset about this, but lock in. Get your tickets to Auburn. Get your tickets to Kentucky. Go on the road. Get your tickets to Tennessee. Lock in for these final 3 games. We didn't even mention it. Vanderbilt has a bye. Auburn, then they have a bye before their final 2 games. That's huge. Lock in. Get your tickets. Get to the bank. Everything this team wants is in front. Vanderbilt controls its destiny. Don't forget that. Vanderbilt controls its destiny.
Exactly. So now that we've gotten that very justified and needed rant out of the way, we are going to quickly, before we get to premium message board questions, we're going to very, very quickly talk about Vanderbilt basketball, who opens their season November 3rd against, and Trevor the Traitor is wearing a Lipscomb University hoodie right now. But Vanderbilt,
this was not intentional.
Vanderbilt
we promise this was not
opens
intentional.
The season tomorrow night, when this is released tonight, against Lipscomb. Lipscomb is not as good as they were last year by any stretch of the imagination. They basically lost everything,
including their head coach Lenny Acuff, who was a great head ball coach. no longer there.
And then on November 8th, Vanderbilt travels to UCF to take on the UCF Knights. So we're going to be talking more basketball, especially after football season ends. If you want a roster preview or a full breakdown of the roster, Alex Kerbagoff has done an incredible job writing articles, going through the entire Vanderbilt roster, pulling up their stats from last year, evaluating their game, and projecting their stats out for this season. You can check that out on thedoopreport.com. This is a shitty preview for Vanderbilt basketball, but we got meaningful football in November. So sorry, that's going to take a little precedent over the Vanderbilt basketball season. But generally, to get these off before the season starts, what's your projected finish? How do you think this Vanderbilt season plays out?
I have very high expectations for this Vanderbilt basketball team. I've been talking to a lot of the guys on staff who've been watching these close practices and in these scrimmages. I'm going to take them at their word. I'm very, very, very excited for Vanderbilt basketball. Very high expectations. I'm going to say it right now. I think this is a Sweet 16 team. I really do. I think this, from what I've heard, I think this is a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, I think this team will be improved from last season. I think they will be better than they were last year. Last year, they were a 10 seed, lost to St. Mary's in kind of gut-wrenching fashion in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think this is between a 6 and an 8 seed this year for the Vanderbilt Commodores. I think that's the kind of roster they've put together. I was there at the Vanderbilt-Virginia exhibition game. Everything I saw is kind of exactly what I expected this team to look like. There's depth of scoring. There's improved size. They're still going to struggle to rebound the basketball against teams with solid size, but Vanderbilt fans are going to love watching this team play. There is no step back being had. There is a step forward that is going to be had under Mark Byington in year 2. So I think this team is an NCAA tournament team and a top 8 seed, not overall 8 seed, but top 8 seeded in the tournament. That's my expectation for this Vanderbilt team. I don't think they're like top of the SEC, but they're above. They're in that tier right below the top SEC teams. And the preseason schedule, relatively easy one before SEC play starts. So expect a hot start from the Vanderbilt Commodores. All right, let's get to premium message board questions. We are trying our best to speed through this one on a late Sunday night. First up from GLH4VU asks, was the team just not ready to get punched in the mouth? Missed tackles, dropped passes. It was rough.
I mean, they got punched in the mouth and they responded. So excuse me. They got punched in the mouth and they responded. I just think it was too little too late.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about you had multiple home games in a row, go on the road. Texas had multiple road games before coming back home. I think Vanderbilt was just not dialed in to start the game. I think sometimes it can be as simple as that. Sometimes you're just off. Things just aren't dialed in. And it was frustrating. It was a frustrating start to that game when you think basically this is a clincher. It's not really, but could have been a clinch type game for a college football playoff berth. And you came out and you start out down 17-0.
Yeah.
That's a bad look for the staff and the players. We've praised them a majority of this year. Every now and then there has to be some criticism.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah.
The start sucked, and they sucked from the start of the game. And then it was too little too late. But they did respond. So just too little too late. Friedis Boss. If Vandy beats Auburn, Kentucky, and UT Junior, will we make the college football playoffs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Guys. And I love Friedis, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like, guys, that's a 10-2 SEC team. Like
with 2 top 20 losses is their only losses.
In multiple top 20 wins, one being on the road whenever South Carolina was top 15 in the nation. Like, guys, I'm not saying that these people that Friedis doesn't know ball, because I know Friedis and I know he knows ball. But like, I think we get so emotional after a loss that like we can't think clearly. And if we went outside and we took a couple deep breaths and thought clearly, you think they're letting a 10-2 or a 10-2 SEC team miss the playoff? Guys, come on.
And all the kind of projections that I see and what had frustrated me before this last weekend was everybody was just saying, well, there's going to be a lot of 10-2 teams. And I was like, okay, that's assuming that just everything across the board goes chalk.
Yeah.
And the perfect example of that's not true is Miami losing to SMU.
Yeah, Miami's out of the playoff now.
That changes a lot. There are going to be losses throughout these final 4 weeks of college football that you're not expecting to see. And they're going to happen. The chaos of college football is going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yes, a 10-2. And maybe this can go back and can be the dumbest recorded take of all time. A 10-2 SEC football team is not being left out of the college football playoff.
No,
Just
guys,
not.
like, and I've had this battle of people on Twitter. I said earlier a 9-3 Vanderbilt team gets in. Now I'm gonna take that back because the season hasn't gone the way I thought. But like the way the committee is factoring strength of schedule this year is much different than they have in previous seasons. And still people say, well, man, Vanderbilt's strength of schedule isn't as good as we thought it was. It's still top 20 in the nation by most metrics. They're not leaving out a 10. If the SEC was pushing forward mandates to get 9-3 teams in, you think they're going to let a 10-2 team slip? Like, let's just, like I said, guys, let's just take a couple deep breaths.
Yeah. And a 10-2 Vanderbilt is getting into the college football playoff. I've said that from the beginning. I was not on the, I still don't think a 9-3 team. And now it all depends on how things play out.
Yeah.
It hasn't played out this year. I still don't think a 9-3 team would have gotten in.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of my take. This year, definitely, that's not going to happen. But yeah, a 10-2 SEC team's just not being left out. Just simple. GLH4VU says, with a little time to reflect, I know the Texas defense is good, ... But was our offensive line outclassed that badly or just have a bad game at a terrible time? This is twice at Bama at Texas that we've started this. Oh, that's a separate question. So just first one is, I know the Texas defense is good, but the outline was outclassed badly or just have a bad game.
Outclassed.
I think it was outclassed.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the better athletes were on the Texas side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was a schematic problem. I think Texas just had better athletes across the board.
Yeah.
And that was just a brutal matchup for this offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
His next part of his question is, this is twice at Bama at Texas that we've started the second half with the ball and had catchable balls dropped. Today, Sherrill and Stowers. How do you think Lee/Beck/Kill need to address that? Catch the damn ball. I don't know how you address drops from the coaching staff. That's a player getting right type thing to me.
Also, too, and I love GLH4VU, but it's like, let's think about the question. You said this is twice now coming out of the half, twice now on the road against Bama, on the road against Texas. Like, that's only in, you compare that to the large sample size we have now, we would say that's not a problem. Okay, it's happened coming out of half in 2 games. Hasn't
it was frustrating as hell.
It was frustrating as hell, but like, I'm not willing to say after those 2 games that it's a systemic problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
The drop issues, there have been a little bit of that, but that's every team across the country has some drop issues. You saw that in the Tennessee-Oklahoma game.
I mean, Ryan Williams drops every other ball.
Yeah, I mean, Junior has now had a couple games in a row where he's had a few drops. The one that he's referring to was a really bad drop. I mean, it was just in his chest, would have been an easy 7-yard gain. And then the Stowers one was a lot tougher of a catch, but one you just expect him to bring down.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't think that's like a systemic problem or anything. Next question. Auburn is one of, I think, 14. Oh, this is an Auburn question, so we'll hold off on that. Blackout Door. Great name.
Great name.
Says, why do we consistently give up points on the opening drive?
I've tweeted this before. It's classic scripted drives. I mean, there's a great meme by Parker Fleming on Twitter. It's from American Psycho, to where he's looking at the business cards and he's like, very nice. Now let's see the unscripted drives and see if you put up points. That's all it is. It's scripted drives. Defense is trying to get their feet underneath them, see what the offense is doing. I think it's that simple.
Defense is reactionary.
Yeah.
That's inherently what it is. It's reactionary. So yeah, the Ryan Wingo touchdown is a whole different thing. That's a whole different discussion. The reason for the points in the opening drive is that's a scripted drive. First 10 to 15 plays are scripted. Yeah. That's what you work on all week. And so obviously the offense is expected to have more success against the defense at that time.
Like, that's also not a Vanderbilt issue. Like, I want to mention, like, watch college football across the nation on a Saturday. Like, that's not a Vanderbilt issue.
A lot of O-line questions this week. Knox Door says, what's up with our vaunted offensive line? Are they banged up? Have they been overrated? Have we been outcoached? Alabama, Missouri, and Texas, all great defenses, have made us look pedestrian. Are we? I will argue Bama.
I don't think Bama made them
I think the offensive line had a solid. The reason the offense stalled against Bama was red zone turnovers.
Yeah, I don't think the offense was at fault for that Bama game.
But yeah, the Missouri and Texas games, they've gotten outclassed. I think to a certain extent, yes, the offensive line was overhyped to a certain extent. But those are just elite defensive fronts.
Yeah, you in back-to-back weeks, you went up against
I think,
2 top 10 defensive fronts in the nation.
I think we did overhype the offensive line, saying, "Are they the best offensive line in the SEC?" I think that was.
Yeah, I'll eat that.
Yeah,
guys.
that
Sorry, I
was
got
us.
excited. I'll eat that.
Yeah,
that's on me. That's on me.
That was overhyped to an overhyped extent. I still think this is an average to above average SEC offensive line.
Yes.
When you're facing the number 1 and number 2 defensive fronts in the conference, it's going to make them look pedestrian.
Yeah.
So we're pulling back on the take. The offensive line, we overhyped them a little bit. We did, is what it is. But yeah, I think you just played elite defensive fronts. And unfortunately, when we get to the Auburn preview, you got another elite defensive front, maybe not to the level of Texas and Missouri, but a very elite defense.
Yeah, not a cakewalk. Yeah.
World's strongest Vandy fan. Back-to-back weeks, we have no balance on offense. Mizzou, we tried to spread out, won the game with our tight ends and heavy sets. Texas, we tried to tight end and heavy set early, almost came back on the back of spread concepts. We need to get back to balance we saw weeks 1 through 7. Defensively, I'm seeing way too much of subs on the defensive line. One of Seabrooks and Wood have to be on the inside for us to be successful. I think the emergence of Singh has made us get cute and trying Wood on the edge too much rather than having our best guys in. On the back end, this was the game we all worried about coming out of camp with Hurd and Sewell as the starting safety tandem teams with the speed to make them look pedestrian. Don't know if Carter's in the doghouse or what, but having him on the back end would be a big help. Also, this game should have helped Diego's Heisman chances, right? Am I playing this game right, Vols? Close loss with big stats only helps the chances. Shout out Boomer Sooner for taking care of that nightmare. The one thing I will say with Carter, he's a really bad tackler. It's better in pass coverage, but as far as runs aboard and then tackling guys on the edge, he's a better guy in pass coverage. But I think the doghouse, to a lack of a better term, is like he's not a good tackler.
I don't even know if I'd consider him in the doghouse because he still gets a lot of meaningful snaps. I will say, I've said it once, I've said it before, I'd much rather see Carter over Sewell. I'll say that. Like, you talk about Marlon Sewell, I know he's a leader, a guy that's been with the program for a long time. He deserves to get reps, but also a guy that, excuse me, not a great tackler. He's not as good in coverage as Dante Carter.
Yeah, getting back to balance will be key. But once again, you're facing the 2 best defenses you're going to face the entire season. And I think Auburn is right there with Bama in quality of defense as well. So I think it kind of goes Texas 1, Missouri 2, Bama 3. Auburn's going to be right there as the 4th defense. But it's tough to have balance on offense when you're facing an elite defense. It just is. Vandy Gal 78. Why did we start off so horribly? I mean, that was ugly stuff. And how did we so dramatically right the ship later in the game? Was it the energy levels coming back, change in play calling, effort to lift the team emotionally?
I think it could be all of the above. I think World's Strongest Vandy fan is right though in his point that late in the game Vanderbilt sort of went to spread stuff. Vanderbilt spread. I mean, Diego Pavia also, this isn't inherent to the spread concept, but he spread the ball around. He targeted over 10 different playmakers in the passing game. So I think that helped too. I think Texas was expecting one thing, sort of that traditional RPO play it tight Vanderbilt offense, and Vanderbilt went totally against what they thought and spread them out, and Vanderbilt found a lot of success in that. I think Vanderbilt does have the playmakers too, if they wanted to do that, could exploit the field, especially with somebody like Eli Stowers and Cole Spence in the middle of the field. It's a lot of space for them to work.
Vandy Fan 95 says, last year there were 3 SEC teams in the college football playoff. Do we really think they'd let 5 SEC teams in this year? Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Vandy. Yes, if there's 5 10-2 teams.
Guys, how many of those teams last year were 10-2?
Yes, it was 3 of them.
Guys, come on.
This is it. It's irrelevant.
I feel like I'm going
I feel like I'm going insane. They're not going to look at it that way. It's going to be blind resume tests, and the SEC teams are going to have better blind resumes.
Yes.
It's simple.
Guys, come on. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm really not. And I mean that. But, like, guys, like, it's a loss. I get it. It sucks. I get emotional after losses. But, like, Let's breathe for a second.
There's one Auburn question, and then Lord Voldador, great name. Says, can the way we moved the ball through the air against Texas ultimately help us in future games get the ground game going? I'm sure game plans against us will still focus on shutting down the run, especially a Pavia scramble. But with some respectable air attack now on film, will they have to be wary of that now? I'd like to see the offense's confidence growing in our passing game following Texas. Though I still think Vandy football needs to be a run-first team. I don't know if it's going to affect anything. I mean, I think teams knew, and they're willing to, for lack of a better term, willing to make Vanderbilt beat them through the air. And so I don't know if this game's going to change anything around that game plan. Vanderbilt just now does have a little bit more confidence. They can beat teams through the air. That's clear and obvious.
Yeah, also, too.
Well, not beat, they lost, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Also, too, I think the tape argument at this point is kind of dumb because it's like now that they have tape, and it's like, guys, they've had tape for a long time on this Vanderbilt offense. Like, I don't know if that really matters anymore.
Last one says, how proud are you guys of Vandy Twitter now? I have memories of there being almost no one there defending Vanderbilt. Now our fans are in your face and really don't give a fuck. It bothers people. TDR had a lot to do with that, I think. Yeah, the Vandy Twitter presence is just so much better than it was. And a lot of that has to do, and it was already building last year, but once you're successful, there's more to defend. But yeah, I would say, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here. I think old Hack Squad over here had a lot to do with being the leader of Vanderbilt Twitter over there. Him and Jalen Merrick's incredible Twitter personality. But yeah, I think TDR, what we've done without like gloating, is like created a community of Vanderbilt fans in a way that Vanderbilt just didn't have before. Just they're going to be in your face, don't have to apologize about being a little cocky or whatever. I think that was much needed for Vanderbilt fans. Like, you don't just have to sit in your place and take people shit talking you. There's enough people to kind of make life hell for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, what I've seen from Vanderbilt Twitter has been splendid. I love everybody on Vanderbilt Twitter. And yeah, I guess the only thing I'll say is don't let people bully you. And I think Vanderbilt fans have finally nutted up and was like, okay, we're not going to let people bully us. Yeah, Vanderbilt. I'm glad about it.
Yeah, Vanderbilt fans figured out they could make burners too. So that's been a great resurgence of Vanderbilt Twitter, because it was dead out there. I was tweeting into nothingness for a long period of time of my life on Twitter, and I'm glad to see some troops rally around. I know you feel that as well.
Oh man, dude, it's just quote tweeting somebody and then going and looking, there being like 2 replies to like 24 replies, and
it's beautiful.
Being Vandy fans is awesome.
So everybody keep it up. We love to see it. We are now going to go to the TDR cocktail break. So everybody out there, grab yourself a delicious ice cold or warm beverage. Now that we're in November, things are cooling down. And we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back into episode 340 of The Door Report. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break. Trevor, we have the Auburn preview to get to. This will be pretty quick because we have a lot to get to this evening. Well, I have a lot to get to, packing and getting ready for a fun trip. So fun work trip. So first off, the biggest news on the front of Auburn football, they lost last week or yesterday. I'm so thrown off recording on a Sunday. It's destroying my brain. Auburn lost 10-3 to the Kentucky Wildcats in maybe one of the most putrid offensive football games I've ever seen in my life.
Wait. She's very gorgeous to me.
She is very gorgeous to me.
At Auburn, mind you.
Yeah.
At home.
That game resulted, not shockingly whatsoever, in the termination of head coach Hugh Freeze. Had been on the horizon for a while. It's a bad day to be me or Trevor's op in the head coaching circle. Brian Kelly and Hugh Freeze both gone this season. Thank you, universe.
You know what? I got a little scoop. Do you want to break it down for the people on the pod? A scoop very close to the situation has told Hack Squat of TDR that Hugh Freeze has already been offered a job at Joel Osteen's church. Contract is in the works, ladies and gents. Contract is in the works.
That's his next move for sure. Known good guy Brian Kelly is no longer employed by an SEC school. Really good guy. And Hugh Freeze, known fake megachurch pastor, also gone. So my two least favorite coaches, I don't care. I would say it to them. I do not like them. I don't like how they handle themselves generally. And they just seem fake to me. I don't have that. It's not, I don't know them personally, obviously. It's just, to me, they want to be viewed by the public in one way. And then you hear murmurs and different things from former players, former staff, and it's a very different story than how they present themselves, specifically Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Brian Kelly's on a whole different level. I just don't like how Hugh Freeze talks, and he's like a mega church guy, and he does have some skeletons in the closet.
I mean, ask Bo Wallace. Yeah.
But Brian Kelly's a different level of, like, he might be a sociopath. Like, some of the stories of his former staffers. And
did you ever see what Robert Saleh said about working under him?
I might have.
Robert Saleh, and we'll get to the preview, I swear to God, guys, but Robert Saleh said that whenever he was an assistant for Brian Kelly at Northern Illinois, he invited him over to a Christmas party, and they dressed up real nice, like, oh, this is so nice, Coach is having us over to his house for a Christmas party. No, he made them shovel the driveway to clear out the snow. And he told ESPN, after that moment, I promised myself I would never, ever, ever treat my assistants poorly because of the way I was treated by Brian Kelly.
Yeah, and that staff and then former players seem to be rejoicing in the termination of Brian Kelly. I don't want to cast too wide of a net, but yeah, happy Brian Kelly's gone. Happy Hugh Freeze is gone. Hugh Freeze deservedly gone after a very, very disappointing year in a whole different way than what Brian Kelly put out on the field.
Yeah.
So Hugh Freeze is gone. Interim head coach. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's up for debate. I'm not 100% sure either direction. You're so deep in the season now. I don't know. On the other front, Hugh Freeze, in an attempt to save his job, made a change at quarterback going into the Kentucky game. Jackson Arnold was benched for backup Ashton Daniels. That did not go well, to put it, we'll say mildly. That was not the problem with the offense. It was not Jackson Arnold. Ashton Daniels was 13 of 28 for 108 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick against Kentucky. Not exactly the performance that he would have hoped for. So Auburn, quick breakdown on him. That was the quarterback situation. Jeremiah Cobb at running back, solid running back.
Yeah, good
Jeremiah
back.
Cobb, solid. This is what's so mind-boggling about this Auburn offense is really talented wide receivers.
Yeah.
Like outside of Alabama, maybe the most talented wide receivers at 1 and 2 in the conference. Cam Coleman might be the best wide receiver. I think he's the best NFL prospect, a wide receiver in the conference. I don't know. Am I overstepping with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard?
I'm a Jeremy Bernard fella.
Okay. Well, there's an argument to be made.
Maybe Ryan Wingo.
Yeah, he's also damn good. There's a lot of nuance, but Cam Coleman's up there.
Cam Coleman is up there. I agree.
Very, very talented receiver. He is Auburn's leading receiver on the season, but not exactly the performance you would fully expect. 37 catches, 474 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also, another very talented receiver, Eric Singleton Jr., transferred in from Georgia Tech. Bet he's loving that decision right now. But he's Auburn's number 2 wide receiver, 40 catches on the year, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dogs on the outside for Auburn, but unfortunately they don't have a quarterback who can get them the ball consistently. On the defensive side, a really, really good Auburn defense. They've yet to give up more than 24 points on the season. Very talented. They have a dog at linebacker in Xavier Atkins. 7 sacks on the season, leads the team in tackles. Also, Robert Woodyard Jr., Kedrick Falk, another guy to keep an eye on that Auburn defensive line. So we said we were going to keep it quick. I'm trying my best to keep it quick. Trevor, anything you want to add before we dive into our keys to the game?
Like I felt about the LSU defense, I think this Auburn defense is low-key fraud alert. Like, look at their schedule. Like, I think this is a little bit fraud alert, Auburn defense. I really do.
Yeah, so far played Baylor, gave up 24, Ball State, South Alabama, Oklahoma, gave up 24 to Oklahoma. Texas A&M only gave up 16 to A&M. Georgia gave up 20. Missouri, we know how their offense functions, gave up 23. Arkansas gave up 24. And then, of course, against Kentucky, gave up 10 points. So haven't exactly, they've played some pretty solid offenses, but haven't faced elite level offenses throughout this season. And who knows how the firing of Hugh Freeze is going to affect the mentality of this Auburn defense. Who knows? That's one of the most up in the air. You have no idea how a team is going to react to their head coach being fired in the transfer portal era. I mean, they're going to want to put good plays on tape, but this deep into the season, you've got enough tape on these guys already. I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate that. I was honestly hoping Hugh Freeze was going to be around for another week.
Well, and two, you not only that, but you have to extend that to the coaching staff. Like all these assistants and GAs, they're like, well, we're kind of fired too. So like, what do you're sort of putting out fires also? Yeah, I get it. It's interim. I'm sorry, guys. In no world is a DJ Durkin coach team scaring me. I'm sorry. I don't care. DJ Durkin coach team's not scaring me.
All right, let's dive into our keys to the game. I'll go first since we're mixing it up, trying to change up the juju.
Change up the vibe.
After a loss to Texas. Mine hits very similarly to a lot of message board questions, and it's a very obvious one. Hits straight on one of the key takeaways we had from the Texas game. Number one, the offensive line has to be better. That's easier said than done. I say that almost on all of my keys to the game, but that's why they're quick keys to the game. They're all easier said than done. This Auburn defensive line and defensive front is another elite run defense. Auburn, number 5 in the country in opponents' yards per carry against FBS opponents. They're only giving up 2.5 yards per carry. Now, Auburn's pass defense, a little more suspect, outside of the top 75 in most statistical categories. So it's kind of a similar evaluation to the Texas and Missouri game in a lot of ways, but it all starts with the offensive line. They've got to do enough to open up a few running lanes and then to allow Vanderbilt to not abandon the run, and they've got to protect Diego Pavia. And this is an extremely talented Auburn defensive front at getting pressure on the quarterback. So this offensive line, once again, has a tall task in front of them. Auburn is top 20 in the country in sack percentage as a percentage of dropbacks against FBS opponents. So big task in front of the offensive line, but they're going to have to play better if Vanderbilt wants to win this game at home.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good key takeaway or key to victory. My key to victory, number one, is pressure, pressure, pressure. You're going up against an offense that is anemic, doesn't even do the word justice. This really might be the worst offense Vanderbilt has played all season until they play Kentucky. This is a bad offense. You're going up against your quarterback, which quarterbacks plural, we don't know, who can't throw the ball. If I'm Steve Gregory, if I'm this defensive line, if I'm Javon Hay, if I'm Larry Black, Nick Lazinski, I'm telling my boys, pin your ears back and just go. Pin your ears back and just get in the backfield as much as you can. Bring as much pressure as possible. What do you have to lose? You know what I mean? It's not like you drop 8 in coverage. You give him all the time in the world to make decisions back there. One of the two might get confused and might throw a couple interceptions, or they're already rattled. Just make them even more rattled and make their life hell. So I'm going pressure, pressure, pressure.
All right, I had 4 written down. That was one of my alternates because Auburn, I read off the stat where Auburn was top 20 in the country getting sacks on over 8% of dropbacks. On the other side, Auburn is giving up sacks on 13% of dropbacks.
I didn't even know that. That's ridiculous.
Dead last in the country. Now, some of that is because the Auburn quarterbacks just aren't getting rid of the ball. It's not all on the offensive line, but sin pressure, like you said, that's
a really crazy stat. Good stat poll.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. But yeah, some of it's on the O-line. A lot of it's on the quarterback and not being able to make quick decisions.
Yeah.
So my actual key to the game, number 2, have to let Pavia win with his arm. Oh, did I steal it?
This is my key to victory number 2 is let Diego cook.
Yeah. So that comes with the small caveat of, I agree, towards the beginning of the game and all of that, you have to see if you can establish the run. I think you are a team that wants to establish the run. You want to run your offense how you want to run your offense. But if that's not a possibility, you got to pivot quickly. And you have to let Diego, for lack of a better term, play hero ball. If the traditional run the ball offense is not working, you saw what happened in the fourth quarter of that Texas game. You've seen it throughout Diego's career at times. This Auburn defensive front is not going to be easy to run against. And their secondary, a little more porous. So you're going to have to let Diego win with his arm against this Auburn defense, who has yet to give up more than 24 points in the season. I know they might be on fraud alert, like you said, but so far, this Auburn defense is damn solid. And so you're going to have to let Diego win with his arm through the air. That's my key to the game number 2.
Yeah, my key to the game number 2 now, I said let Diego cook. I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to say let Eli cook. There's nobody in the nation. There's no linebacker. There's no safety. There's no cornerback that can cover Eli Stowers. Force feed Eli Stowers the ball and just let him work. I think whenever I know whenever Eli Stowers has the ball in his hand, good things happen. I think they need to force feed Eli more and, let him take over a game. I think you saw what happened in the Texas game whenever you did that. So, yeah, let Eli Stowers get in his bag.
See, this is the dangerous part about letting me go first. I've had to come up with some new ones on the fly. Now you're seeing
now I'm understanding your plight.
Now you're seeing my plight. My last one is not specifically offense or defense, but Vanderbilt's got to clean up the penalties. We talked about that as a takeaway from the Texas game. There are just too many times where Vanderbilt is committing key penalties on offense and defense. It almost allowed Missouri to come back and hit a Hail Mary to tie the ball game or win it at the end of regulation. The penalties on both sides have to be cleaned up. Both of these teams, Vanderbilt and Auburn, are horrible at committing penalties. Vanderbilt is close to about 100th in the nation in penalties a game, having 7 penalties per game, 111th in penalty yardage per game. Auburn, on the other side, 113th in the country, 7.4 penalties per game, 81 penalty yards per game, 101st, or 61 penalty yards per game, 101st in the country. Both of these teams are heavily penalized. The more disciplined team is going to win this game. And I'm thinking that Vanderbilt, with a head coach and staff intact, has the ability to be more disciplined than Auburn does. So clean up the penalties.
Yeah. My key to victory number 3 is going to be very boring, but I'll expand on it a little bit. I think you're going to have to win the field position battle. I think going up against this Auburn offense, if I've said before, I don't really care what teams do in between the 20s. However, I think that Vanderbilt is more than capable at stifling this Auburn offense. So I think if you can keep them backed up while they're on offense and force them to punt to Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt flip the field, I think even if this Auburn defense isn't necessarily on fraud alert like I suspect, it's still going to be a huge benefit for Vanderbilt going up against a good defense to start on the 30, the 35, or the 40 as opposed to starting on the 20 or the 25. That stuff in crunch time in November football, whenever football is hyper meaningful, is very, very important. So I'm going to say win the field position battle.
I like it. Last keys were pretty simple. Tough to do, but very simple. Let's get to our predictions here, Trevor. We've been flipping how we've been doing it. Do you want me to go first? As you've been
you go first. Let you go first.
So I read the stat. I personally don't think this Auburn defense is on fraud alert. I'm going to slightly disagree with Trevor. I think they are not quite to the level of Texas's defensive front talent. I know Vanderbilt put up 31, but so much of that was in fourth quarter desperation time when Texas too quickly went into kind of prevent mode in some ways. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to break that streak of Auburn giving up less than 24 points in every game. I do think Vanderbilt's defense is able to stifle an anemic Auburn offense. So I'm going Vanderbilt 24, Auburn 13. I might adjust that when we do TDR staff predictions to 24-14 because potentially with an interim head coach, they might just not kick field goals. I can fully see that as a possibility, but I'm going Vanderbilt 24, Auburn 13. Doors win. It's not some euphoric blowout experience, but I think Vanderbilt's just a better football team than Auburn is.
Okay, I can get down with that. Guys, Vandy's down, but Vandy's not out. Big game this Saturday. Buy your tickets, get to the bank, support the boys. Meaningful November football is all we've ever wanted, and by God Almighty, do we have meaningful November football at the bank. If you don't have a ticket, go on whatever platform you wish and buy a ticket right now. I'll be there. The Section F boys will be there. It's going to be a rowdy environment. It's time to kill our third Tiger of this season. I'm going to go Vanderbilt 27, Auburn 10. I'm with you. I do think Vanderbilt breaks that 24-point barrier. Not a blowout like you say, but I also think this is one of those games where Vanderbilt's in control the entire time and it's really never up for debate.
Yeah, I think there's been something lost as well. The quality of opponent that Vanderbilt has played the last 4 weeks.
It's been a gauntlet. For
It's been
Vandy.
four
Jeez.
straight top 20 teams that Vanderbilt has faced. So this is going to be. I know that issues have arisen around this team to a certain extent. There are problems. The offensive line problem, I don't think, is going away in this game in particular. But this Auburn team is not of the caliber or class of the teams you've seen Vanderbilt play the last 4 weeks. They're just not. I think it's going to be a relief to Vanderbilt fans to watch them play a team like Auburn that just they don't have a passing attack. And ultimately, that's what scared me, even though I was probably overly confident going into Texas, is Vanderbilt has a tendency to make guys that have struggled throughout the year that this Vanderbilt defense is the one they have their breakout game, get back on track. I don't see that happening with this Auburn passing attack. So I'm pretty damn confident in Vanderbilt coming out of this one with a victory, and I'll be pretty damn confident against Kentucky.
Yeah.
Quality passing attacks are what scare me with this Vanderbilt defense, not teams that can't throw the ball and rely on a run game. That's not what scares me.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but like you said, man, this has been a gauntlet for Vanderbilt. I don't want to look too far ahead, but after this game, you get a bye, a very, very late bye before your final 2 games. I think that could be one of the biggest blessings in disguise for Vanderbilt.
I think so as well. Rest will help at this point in the season. Let's get to the final premium message board questions we have that are related to the Auburn game. From GLH4VU says Auburn is one of, I think, 4 teams to not allow 24 points this year, or more than 24 points is what he means. Their defense has been solid. How many points do you think Poffy and co have to put up to win? Because that offense on the Plains is awful. To win the game, I think if you can score 20 plus, you've got the game won. I don't see Auburn putting up more than 20 points, even in my worst imagination.
See, I'm lower, dude. I think if Vandy could get 17, I think they win.
I can see that as well.
Well, we're not that far. We're a field goal off from each other.
There were a couple more here. Okay. Yet another door lawyer asks, when coaches get fired, a lot of times you see teams use that as a rallying point or the wheels fall off completely. Which side do you think we'll see with the Freeze fire?
I told this to Will beforehand. That certainly was a thing pre-portal. I'm not entirely sure that's a thing.
I mean, you saw it with UCLA.
You did, but then I could push back and be like, did you see it with Penn State? Did you see it with Oregon State? Did you see it with Vautech? I don't know. I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm not putting that much stock in it.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it can go either direction. I don't see it as a rallying point this late in the season. I think that can possibly happen, and you can get guys to buy in when it's early in the year and the firing happens. At this point, you're in the final 4 weeks of college football. I mean, this team knows where they're sitting. They know it's a disappointing year. Their head coach is fired, and all of them are likely looking ahead to where they're going to be transferring next season, and that applies to the staff as well. I don't think – I would have rather seen another week of Hugh Freeze, don't get me wrong, but I would have been love to be the team that puts the death knell into the Hugh Freeze coaching career there at Auburn, but I don't think it ultimately.
Also see Diego Pavi get the sweep.
Yep, that would have been nice. Somebody said at Kodak Black and Gold, we need lines. No lines this week. We threw off Kodak Black and Gold because of the Sunday recording. So that's not on him.
Please don't tell me we threw off our guy that does the poems.
There's no poem.
Oh,
I know. It hurts.
I might hold a Twitter Spaces sometime midweek just so we can get Kodak Black and Gold's lines as well as that poster to drop a poem.
Yeah, it's a sad day. Not as many premium message board questions because of the time change with recording, but that's to be expected. That's all we have here. We've gone through the Texas recap, given our key takeaways, talked a little bit of basketball, previewed the Auburn game, gave our keys to the game, gave predictions. Trevor, anything else you want to add on episode 340 before we close it out here?
Survive and advance.
Survive and advance. For myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host, Trevor Hulan, this has been episode 340 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.